I think yesterday, you also talked about it with Ali on A2 analysis. Um, and you said like, oh yeah, the Islamic Republic is dying to go back to war. And I was a little perplexed and I'm still not sure I understand 100%. So like from where I'm sitting, if we do, start the boom booms again, they have no chance. Like, to quote Trump, their navy is gone, they have no air force, whatever, all of that, right? They have nothing. I mean, they have probably a few missiles, but whatever. We'd like eliminate them in 48 hours, maybe longer. But my point is like, why would they? Isn't that suicide mission? I mean, I don't know. I don't quite understand why they would want to risk getting annihilated.
So, well, because what they're going through right now is worse, right? What they're going through right now is extremely worse than that, right?
Worse
At
than
least,
getting boom boomed.
yeah, yeah. I mean, if 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 I have a dog cornered and I'm not feeding it and I'm starving it, it might think to itself that if it bites me right now, I still can overpower him because it's very weak right now. But if it doesn't do anything, it's going to just sit there and starve to death. So, I mean, the Americans do bombardments as doesn't kill as many regime officials as the Israeli ones, right? So the officials, some of them, not all of them, like Taliban, for example, doesn't want to go back to war. Pezeshkian doesn't want to go back to war. Arakshi doesn't want to go back to war. Everybody within the government's cabinet doesn't want to go to war, right? But IRGC wants to go back to war. Like, well, some of them do, not all of them. But because they're just noticing, like, they're not making any revenue, and things are going to get really, really bad. Like, everything is going to break. At least with war, you're going to have war times economies, and you're going to be able to be, if things get chaotic in the region, you're going to be able to use the chaos to, I don't know, maybe take some Iraqi oil, I guess, at least, right? Because you cannot lose your ability. Like, also, if war gets regional, you're going to be able to, uh, during the chaos, you might be able to sell your oil through land routes to some extent. And internally, if your, at least your base of support is dealing with war, they're less likely to complain about fuel prices because they're dealing with bombs, right? So if the concern is bombs that are being dropped on your head, you're less busy blaming the government for mismanagement. So here's the thing: the rally around the flag effect is real for regime supporters, right? So if you have like, let's say, I'm just gonna make up numbers, okay? Because I think it's actually worse than this for the regime. But if you have like 95% of Iranians against the Islamic Republic, 5% for the Islamic Republic, it's worse than this. But let's just work with these numbers, right? Some Western media say there's a rally around the flag effect when there is war. They're wrong. That 95% is gone, right? The regime knows that, right? But that 5%, there's absolutely a rally around the flag effect for that 5%. Because the problem for the regime is not the 90, I mean, the thing that the Islamic Republic is focusing on is not the 95%. The 95% is gone and we're not going to get it back. That's their understanding, right? There's what they're terrified about is losing this 5% because this 5% is also turning on them, right? And at least during the war, we're going to have a rally around the flag effect on this 5%. Not on most of the Iranian people, but on this 5%, we might have that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think I just probably assumed that they would want to wait it out. Like so I guess your clarification that the main Durkas probably want to go back to war, but the government cabinet, like Ghalibaf and the rest, don't. And I get their position because that's what I would have thought. They just want to wait it out, wait until midterms, maybe something, Trump will lose power, whatever. I don't know. Something will happen, and they just want to survive. They just literally want to avoid any type of
Right.
boom booming. possible. But yeah, no, it makes sense.
So everybody is calculating based on their own self-interest, right? So
Yeah.
if you look at Ghalibaf doesn't want to go to war, right? Ghalibaf is uh, thinks the Americans are using him. That means that he has some leverage because the Americans are there, so he has to prove himself useful to the Americans indirectly to be able to use this opportunity to climb the ladder of power against the IRGC and the supreme leadership. And he's terrified that if the Americans leave, then he's going to fall off the ladder. But also, if the Americans start attacking, I mean, the Israelis might get involved and he might die. So he doesn't want any of this, right? He wants to try to make a deal either work or to try to just keep this dragging on for as long as possible until he finds more leverage so that he could make his power more deep rooted within the Islamic Republic, right? The IRGC is looking at how this isolation is making everything. The IRGC likes isolation, but not this much. Okay, like this is too much isolation, right? They can't sell anything, right? The IRGC likes isolation to the point that they don't want to compete their monopolies to compete with international companies. Okay, but they don't like isolation to the point that they cannot export a drop of oil. Like this is killing them, right? Um, and the Supreme Leadership Office was using Ghalibaf at the beginning after Ali Khamenei died as a way to push back against a full IRGC takeover. But the more Ghalibaf was getting influential, then they started to have to worry about a full Ghalibaf takeover, right? So for the Supreme Leadership, uh, who was supporting Ghalibaf in making the negotiations work at the beginning, was a way to push back against IRGC. But now them turning against negotiations and agreements is a way to push back against Ghalibaf's influence. So for them, it's not just about survival of the Islamic Republic. It's also some internal. So there are two camps within the Islamic. If we do a simplistic division of the pro-negotiation versus anti-negotiation people in Iran, being anti-negotiation is not just a position of foreign policy against the Americans. It's also an internal policy against the takeover of the people who are pro-negotiation, right? So sometimes you could be against the negotiation for many reasons, including that you could be against the negotiations for internal reasons that the pro-negotiations are taking over. And I need to push back against it by being anti-negotiation. So it becomes very complex, but I'm just trying to simplify it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I just have one last question. If you actually ask them straight up, like, do they actually believe they have any chance militarily against the USA? Like, do they truly think they can actually win? Are they that delusional?
Okay.
Like, do you think
I mean,
they think Allah is behind them or something? I don't understand.
okay, depends on what you mean by win. Okay. So if
Like,
win,
yeah. No, go ahead. Go ahead.
no, you go ahead. No, I want to hear what you mean.
No, by win, I just mean like you say, like, waves the white flag à la France and says, okay, we're out, we surrender, Trump leaves, and that's it.
Well, I mean, for them, win means not dying, right? Not like for them, win doesn't mean that the Americans come out and say like we surrender. They know that's not going to happen. They're not that delusional. Okay, for them, win means
Well, yeah.
no. They don't believe that. They make that propaganda because they're actually smarter than people give them credit for, right? The reason why they make propaganda like that is because they know how dumb their supporters are, right? So that content is for their supporters. It's not for them, right? For them, win means that the superpower came here to kill us, and we're still living now, and they didn't kill us, and we survived. We survived their attempt to topple us. It doesn't mean that America is going to fall. It doesn't mean that USS Abraham Lincoln is going to get sunk. It doesn't mean that we're gonna shoot, like we're gonna make them come and accept that they were defeated. None of that. It just means that they came over here, tried to topple us, and we're still here. That's a win for them.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you, Liz.
Siddhartha, would you reply?
Yeah, I guess I don't really have too much more to add. I think you all kind of covered it. I mean, I guess I would say that we can think of it as sort of there's two bad choices here, right? The IR can suffer through the blockade and the isolation, or they can face kinetic action. So it's basically, it's a choice between two like less than favorable situations. I think that there are. I don't think it's an irrational belief that they can sustain the kinetic action, so that they can survive it, and then they can, let's say, tire out the U.S. Like the U.S. loses interest, and that's a victory. It is, I should say, just beyond that. I can't tell you how many times I've heard in mainstream media, and not just mainstream media, but even some right-leaning media, independent media. I can't tell you how many times I've heard that Iran has won or Iran is winning, or like the IR. Okay, but they use that language, Iran. So from a propaganda standpoint, I think there are a lot of people ready to jump on the idea that Iran has won. Now, the question is, will kinetic action change that formula? I think a lot of people, I think even a lot of American military analysts don't believe that the regime is going to fall from bombs alone. So the question is like, okay, well, what is America willing to risk to do regime change? And it's probably not enough. It's probably not enough to knock off the regime. So then the question is, okay, well, so if that's the case, right? Then looking at it from that standpoint, blockade and undermining our resupply, undermining our economy, are much more difficult to sustain than the kinetic action, because the blockade is relatively cheap compared to kinetic action, and it's sort of like, I think it's a lot less politically damaging for the administration. So while they still have influence on the media narrative, they're going to have to deal with the economic situation building up internally, and also they have to deal with the internal divisions, which are easier to manage, I think, when they're under attack.
Perfect analysis. I like that. Okay.
My name is Armin Navabi. I'm an Iranian political analyst with decades of experience fighting the Islamic regime inside and outside of Iran. Make sure you follow me for more, and also make sure you join our discussion group. I'm there almost every single day. Come talk to me there and the rest of the people there in our group calls. It's a great place to meet and talk to people who like talking about politics. The link is in the description and or in the bio. You could also get there by scanning the QR code on the screen. See you there.